how has the introduction of this new genre, this cryptocurrency genre, how has that changed the world of day trading?
It allows people that don't have a lot of funds or don't have a university degree or experience in day trading in the futures or stock market. There's no barriers to entry. They can open an account, sign up to an exchange, work out what they want to buy, and buy it. You're straight in.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have to put up guarantees, margins. It's if you want to put in $100, put in $100. As long as you don't trade on margin, that's all you're going to lose, because the value of what you can buy is for what you put in. So as long as you don't go the margin side trading, you're not borrowing any funds, the barrier to entry is pretty small.
Yeah, okay. So how does someone get involved with crypto trading?
In trading, you basically, all you need is to open an account on an exchange, deposit the money in, do your verification, and away you go. Choose what coin you want to buy and click the button and you're in.
And is this all readily available? So if someone was keen on it, they could jump on their laptop, they could jump onto Google, and they'd be able to essentially figure it out themselves pretty quickly?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay.
They might know what they're doing, but it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to open an account. Depositing $1,000 is pretty straightforward. It's a bank transfer. Then you're on your own basically, and they're not going to help you through it. But find a coin, press buy, choose your price, and you're in.
Anything else in terms of your overall wealth journey that's kind of giving you that peace of mind to know that you're setting yourself up and to be able to provide for the family? I guess if you had to give some suggestions of what you've done and what you've been able to put into place to...
Yeah, probably know what you're doing and stick at it. Don't take risks in things you don't know what you're doing. That might be good when I was younger, or didn't have a wife and didn't have a family, and you can afford to risk something in something that might have a great return. Whereas as you get a bit older and you have people that rely on you, it's doing more research, making sure you're investing smartly to work out that risk reward. Is it worth doing that type of thing?
How would you kind of guide people? How's that going to mould your decisions moving forwards in terms of how you trade?
At the moment, there's certain countries that have basically said, no, we're not having any part of this. But depending on where coin originates, depends on what jurisdiction governments have reach on.
Sure.
The SEC so far haven't clarified exactly what they think, but they're starting to give a bit of a signal that they're working on it. At the moment, they've shut down a few, but as long as the companies are doing the right thing and not ripping people off, basically, they're so far so good. At some stage, it might change, because as you said, a lot of them, basically, if you look at it on a piece of paper, it looks like security. It's the same as the stock market. And no one's registering these type of things, which may change. But even in the last few months, I've seen these ICOs try and do things the right way, as if they were a security. Verification, know your customer, all that type of thing, to try and keep it legitimate.
And you hear a lot of things like this, that people try these kind of tactics or strategies, and it's just this one thing that's skyrocketed them to success.
Yeah.
In your opinion, do you think that there's a way to work out what that next thing is going to be, or is it really just trial and error?
It is very much trial and error. You're probably not going to get it right the first time, but it comes back to the customer. So why should they follow you? I've actually watched Shoko from the beginning. I remember the first ads on Facebook. She was one of the first people to really, in her space, take advantage of Facebook to the level that she could have. But she was really smart. So if you look back, even I think now at her content on across social media, it's not just product photos. No. And those product photos are beautiful. They are very aspirational. They show a very beautiful woman looking great with starred backgrounds. But there's a lot of other content that might be funny memes or things from a cultural context that relate to her audience.
She knows her audience so well, right?
Yeah, she knows her audience, and it just keeps coming back to that. If you really, really know your audience and you understand who they are, what they love, what they hate, what annoys them, what they watch on TV, and you can relate to that in your content, they buy into you more, because now you're not so much just a brand pushing product. You're funny, you're emotive, you're almost, your brand has a personality that they can connect and relate to. And that's what she's done.
And you mentioned the platform that you're building, so that's really exciting. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the platform is, how it's going to work, and how it's going to help people?
Yeah, so the challenge as a small business owner, which kind of some of your questions you've been asking me have pulled out, is that there's so much you need to do in marketing. So you need to understand your personas, you need to build messaging, you need to have creative, whether that's product photos or some sort of imagery for your ads when you're a service business. You need to work out your analytics and figuring out what's working, what's not. You need to run ads like you're going forever. And that's just the basics that everyone needs to do. And when you work with an agency or a marketing expert, or you do a course, or you Google something, you're looking at a very siloed approach. So you're looking at SEO, you're looking at one thing. Not only do you need multiple, tactics in your marketing efforts, but you need to make them work together in an overarching strategy. And that's what's missing at the moment. It's very, very difficult for a small business owner to figure out how to put all those pieces of the puzzle together and work out what pieces of the puzzle are relevant to them, like what's their puzzle, because there'll be pieces of the puzzle of other people's puzzles that they won't need to use, I guess, or that will be less important. So I guess the reason I feel Growth Sprout is because it's so hard to figure out what you should be doing. And then even if you have a small business owner who has found someone perfect, who has done a course, who knows exactly what they should be doing, they have certain tools in their business. They might use WordPress, they might use ActiveCampaign, whatever it is. They've now got to figure out how to apply that theory into the tools that they use, into their business, into all their strategy about their customers. They've got to now map that into reality. And that's another entirely different challenge. So Growth Sprout aims to kind of solve that for them and show them the how as well.
It's like an agency, but if you're selecting somebody to develop a piece of software for you, how do you ensure that you've got that alignment in terms of the vision and I guess the big picture?
I think you need to spend a bit of time with them and understand, I guess, their business and maybe some ideas of who they've worked with before. I don't know, it is a bit of a hard one, because without that prior relationship, it can be hard to build that trust.
Yeah, sure.
I guess really the best way that you can work towards building a product is by starting with a minimum viable product, MVP. So basically what that means is that you don't, and I did this slightly wrong probably, you want to test that the problem that you think exists, and that the way that you want to solve the problem is the way that your potential customers want it to be solved, which I did. But once you know that they're both reality, that there's a problem and that the way that you want to solve it will be valuable, find a way that you can test that in reality without building anything. A good challenge is you have a little budget. You could end up door knocking. You could go down to the low. It's scary, but you should do it. And one of the things that I did do well is, because I was told to do it, is that I went out to small business owners that were just at the shopping centre, and I asked them if this tool existed, do you find marketing hard? What do you find hard about it? If this tool existed, what would you want it to be like? And I was going to build it on a phone, for example, and they told me, well, if I'm learning things and applying things, it needs to be on a desktop computer, for example. There is definitely a way that you can test your concept without building anything. So I actually could have built an example of Growth Sprout. So I could have built the content and the tactics within Growth Sprout via even like a membership site via ClickFunnels that exists now, which didn't before, but something like that, some sort of WordPress plugin or something as a test first, which I didn't go as far as to do that, which probably would have been safer and smarter. But we are now kind of working through like lean startup methodology. So basically how I work with my developers now is I just pay them per hour, and we work through one change. First of all, I'll actually ask my users if they want the change, and I'll give them some options of how that might pan out and look in reality. They'll vote on it, they'll vote on priorities, then we'll build it, and we'll just build one thing at a time, because usually by the time we finish one thing, what's going to happen next will be different.
Sure.
So we kind of evolve with them, and what we're doing at the moment is, wherever possible, instead of hard coding something into the platform, we're figuring out how we can say, add a button that links to an external website that's built in WordPress, which is just a page that I can hack together in an hour. Okay. Test it. Is it valuable? If it's valuable, then go spend the $5,000 or $10,000 on building it into the platform itself.
Yeah, fantastic. It's building a Facebook group, adding people in, but I found that a lot of them have zero engagement, because you can kind of tell that they're trying to sell you something. It's a constant push of product. I was watching one recently, and it's tried very hard to build that personality and have that, I guess, that sense of relatability, but there's zero engagement.
Yeah.
And I found that a lot of your marketing that you put out there, whether it be your Facebook Lives or the videos that you put up and post in your community, it tends to always have good engagement. So I guess, how have you been able to cultivate that in your community?
So for me, so in corporate world I was very successful, I did really well. As a new business owner though, I have a very limited reputation, no one knows who I am.
Sure.
So for me to go on, and I have a limited budget too, just like every new business, and so for me to just go and pump out ads, it's probably, and there's a lot of trial and error when you're running ads,
sure.
and a lot of times it's going to be a while before they pay off, which I can talk about another time, but for me, my method of growing my business is to show people and to prove to people that I know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So that group is solely to give value, to build content that helps people. Mm-hmm. And then I'm finding that they just come to me anyway. They actually reach out to me via Facebook Messenger, or they'll email me and they'll actually ask to buy, like, what products do I sell, even if they don't even know about Growth Sprout, and how can they buy it, and they'll sign up. Because they trust me. They can see that I'm not selling, I'm actually giving them value.
Adding value.
It's that social proof.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's so important, that adding value thing. I think it doesn't matter what sort of business model you're in, and we try to do it as much as we can. And I think all successful businesses just try to add as much value as possible. And it's the old theory, the world will give you less, give you more than you take, essentially.
Yeah. And I guess people are getting savvy, and I feel. So when it comes to, I guess, crafting your marketing and sales strategy, and I guess particularly in terms of being able to use that social proof to leverage your reputation, what's the best way for somebody to go about that congruently?
Yeah. So the best way to approach it is to, again, figure out how you can, going back to your persona, figuring out how you can provide the value, give them as much value as humanly possible, over service, over deliver, and then over time you can figure out how to build that into products. What you want is for people to go, oh my god, if this is what I can get for free from this person, what if I paid for something? They expect that the value will be higher. And the idea is that you want to kind of take them on a journey with your brand and your business, from free content through to small purchases to larger purchases, as they kind of build more trust with you, and sort of nurture them down that journey. But the idea is to always offer them more value, more perceived value than a perceived cost.
Fantastic. So talk me through the process. What's your process for goal setting? How often do you do it? What do you do? How do you hold yourself accountable?
Look, so it's changed over the years, right? When you're younger, when you're a kid, it was essentially winging it, right? You'd have a big idea. I wouldn't even write it down. You'd have a goal or something like that, and you're stuck in your head, and you just work and act your way towards whatever that goal was. As you get older and life gets busier and you've got more and more goals, I've found myself essentially systemizing the way that I achieve things. Mm-hmm. These days, I sit down on my own like a guru in my room. I spin out. I just sit there and think. You were making fun of me before this podcast started, because I blocked out a time in my diary on Saturday to sit there and think. So Jackson was having a laugh at me, but I like that. It pays off when I can sit there and spend a couple of hours on my own with my own thoughts. I can work out what I want to do and essentially how I'm going to do it. Once I've got that down pat, I'll write it all down. Right, so I don't keep anything in my mind anymore. I put everything, used to be on paper, now everything's on the laptop. Write down, what it is I want to achieve, why I want to achieve it, how I'm going to feel once it's achieved, how I'm going to feel on the way, and all the details and all the steps that I need to take to get there. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I'll set that out for the next 12 months. Right, so I've done that on New Year's morning. I got up early and I've done that for the year. I'll break that down into monthly goals. I'll revisit that on the first of every month. Doesn't always have to be on the first. Whenever I get a couple of hours to sit down and revisit it, and then I'll break that down again into weekly and daily tasks that have to be done in order to reach the bigger goal. Essentially breaking down, a huge wall, one brick by one brick. If you look at it and try climbing the mountain, you're going to go, this is too hard. If you do it one step at a time, eventually you'll get there. And once that's done and all the theoretical work's done, the biggest thing is taking action, right? Is just head down like a pit bull and just getting stuck straight into whatever it is. Yeah, man, and I saw it with my own two eyes. We've worked together for years, and I could see once the drinking stopped, the surge in energy you had, and it continued, and it just kept going and kept going, and you're essentially bouncing off the walls every day now, but you get a lot done.
Yeah.
You get a lot done. So it was a win. That's a win. That's having a New Year's resolution. I hate the word. That's having a goal at the start of the new year and achieving it.
But I think that the interesting part of it was that I was able to derive benefit on a daily basis as a result of my actions. So if let's say I had a different motivating force, and I tried to stop drinking in the past. Let's say I tried to do dry July, something like that, right? And because you're just doing it for more or less, I guess, an aimless goal, it's just you're giving up for the sake of giving up, all you have is sacrifice.
There's no
benefit.
Yeah.
So the only benefit is that you get to the end of the month and you say, oh yeah, I didn't drink for a month, let's go and get pissed. Right? So because of that, the motivating force didn't allow me to reap a return for my efforts. Most people fall short, and I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of people who do goal setting or dream, that they don't take the time to reap the rewards of their hard work and efforts. I've kind of challenged myself and reflected back on what was the difference between, I guess, all of the previous years and I guess everyone else's New Year's resolutions, and I guess what's the difference between me being able to achieve that goal and I guess compared to others falling short.
What do you think it was?
It's all about the motivating factor. It's about the motivating force. Is the driving force big enough to make you stick the path? And it comes back to something I refer to a lot about deferring gratification. Right. So I guess there's a constant balance of I guess the cost versus the benefit, right? And for most, let's say for argument's sake, for anyone saying they're going to stop drinking. For most, they fall short, right? They might go a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but they ultimately fall off the wagon. And it comes down to, are they willing to continue to defer that gratification of going out and having a few beers with the boys for, I guess, the long-term benefits of having a clear mindset, of being able to be at 100% all of the time, not being hungover and being unproductive, or all of these things. And it's what driving force is bigger. I think for me, the biggest deciding factor for me to stop drinking was the effect that it had on my mindset. And further to that, I didn't like who I was when I drank. Given the time of year, it's probably a good idea to talk about some goals and talk about some of the common themes. I know you recently wrote a blog about New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, I did, mate. So I don't like the idea of a New Year's resolution in its typical form. I love the idea of goal setting and wanting to achieve, but you're sitting there with your friends or your family, you're half a dozen beers down, you go, I'm going to do this next year. You're not going to do that.
No.
You're not going to do that. So I wrote a blog and I spoke a little bit about dismissing that idea of the New Year's resolution that essentially for 9 out of 10 people it'll fail. And I set out an actual structure that people can put in place to actually achieve goals if they seriously want to achieve them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, look, I think it's funny, and I think it's not just for New Year's resolutions, it's for goals in general. I think that people far too often dream and they don't do what is required to turn their dreams into goals.
Yeah.
And I think for most, the idea of a New Year's resolution is just a dream. It's normally around fitness or around not drinking or partying so much or doing more with your life. And you're right, it's normally after a few quiet ales, and far too often they fall short. And I think I was guilty of that myself. What was that this scientist got these kids, 4 or 5-year-old kids, and sat them down in a room and basically gave them a marshmallow and said, okay, if you can sit here for 15 minutes without eating that marshmallow, I'll come back and I'll give you 2. And the idea was you can eat the marshmallow, but that's all you're going to get. So he filmed the experience, left them in a room by themselves with 0 stimulation. And 2 out of 3 kids ate the marshmallow, whether it be at 1 minute, 5 minutes, 14 minutes. Somewhere along the line they ate the marshmallow. And the kids that were able to put their mind on other things, and could visualize the rewards of waiting the 15 minutes, which for a 4 or 5 year old
with a marshmallow in front of them.
Imagine that. It's like an eternity. So those kids that could visualize the outcome of their sacrifice and could really understand the value of waiting, they were able to stick the course. And it's one of those things that those people who aren't able to visualize the outcome will generally always fall short of their goals.
It's interesting, mate. I think that it's all about purpose, really, isn't it? Like, I think Zembro has a really deep purpose of their kind of social enterprise and about being able to create change in the world through I guess, their substantial business that they've built. And I think that a lot of businesses try to act on purpose. They try to align themselves with a purpose, but sometimes fall short in how they articulate that purpose to the people on the other side of the table. Their customers, their stakeholders, all the people that are involved in their business, and they kind of overlook that their business may not just be a vehicle that's there to churn money and put dollars into their bank account. So I guess from your experience, mate, I guess through your work in that creative direction of really trying to get them to craft and hone that purpose and their value proposition as such for them to articulate that on camera, what's one of the processes that you go through to help them kind of uncover that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jackson. It's the challenge is often you got to look back at why the video was commissioned, and a brand, a business may have a particular objective. They need to make more sales in this area, or they're just releasing this product. So the purpose behind the organization is only just part of the process, or depending again on the audience of that piece, it may not feature at all. And one of the biggest challenges that we've had in business in growing is everyone loves this idea of story, but they often either don't have the money to execute the project like what we did with Zambrero, or they, because of the particular person you're working with, their objective is on a much smaller scale. So what we do is we see how we can bring in elements of purpose and create a sense of what the brand stands for within a piece of content, even if it's something smaller. And we've had this opportunity with Canon, which has been really great. So the content that we've done with Canon has been around the experience that brand gives and has with very high-end photographers.
Okay.
So we did a piece where we went to the Sydney Cricket Ground, to the AFL,
Okay.
and it was amazing. We were following Phil, who's a News Limited photographer. He's been filming sports since he was like 14. He's playing AFL, and he just loves it. He's just the emotion. He just gets into what's happening, and his role, his job, is to capture that perfect image. And Canon stands for technology, equipment, personnel, and the image of how can we empower you as the photographer to capture that image. And so it was a short social documentary, if you will, following Phil on a day at the cricket ground in terms of going, okay, this is how his life works. And we hear these stories about how when he was shooting the cricket, he burnt his finger on the shutter of the camera because it got so hot because he was shooting so fast. But the technology's built for it. It can survive a 40-degree heat. And one of the comments I loved from him was, because cricket, and that's the thing, like different sports have different energy drives. So we were doing the AFL with this piece, and so it was all about the energy and the impact. He was telling us, he was reminiscing about when he was on the cricket, and he was on a very, very long telephoto lens, and he's like, it's like you're staring into the inner thoughts of the fieldsmen out there. And it's about, capturing those moments.
How well do you get to know your clients and your client's business and what they're doing before you can actually put a video together?
You're absolutely right, Sam. It's quite an in-depth process, and that's where it can be quite challenging, where when you're providing a service, that balance of how much time you can afford to put into the process, as well as what can your client afford to give back. When you find this beautiful synergy where the clients, like, they know exactly why they're creating the piece, or even when maybe they don't, they know they need to communicate something. We've determined that video is going to be a powerful medium to do that, and so when those conversations align and you can actually have these chats about, oh, so that's what you're doing, and you know, that's the technology, and that's really, really cool. Like, that's what we find really exciting, is when you're having these conversations and you're hearing about these products and services and they excite you, because then you're like, well, how can I then tell that story? And it empowers us to then create the best piece of content for you.
For a lot of people who are producing content, they kind of overlook the amount of pre-planning that has to go into telling an authentic and well thought out story. Like, storytelling's an art, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about that. Like, if you want, like, the Zamburo campaign in particular, like, what do you think was the kind of key to the success of that campaign? Why it had such a profound effect?
Yeah, the Zamburo piece was amazing because we learnt about their mission, and we were amazed that people didn't know about it. So when someone mentions the word Zamburo, being Sydney based, I was aware of it, but to me, they were just another Mexican fast food chain. But once I delved in further and actually discovered, no, there's actually a history behind it. The reason that brand exists is to end world hunger. And that's a huge statement. To have a fast food chain that could actually do that. And when we learned more about Sam Prince and why he created the brand, we were like, people have to know about this, because if you had a Mad Max, a Gosmini Gomez, and Zamburo all next to each other, if you didn't know the stories, maybe maybe there's a taste preference, maybe you just, you'd been to one and you're like, well, just like, say, McDonald's, you know what you're going to get, so you just keep going, kind of thing. But now I'll only go to Zamburo. The food is fresh, the food is healthy, it's great, and that's part of their mission as well. But the core of it is, for every time you buy a burrito or a bowl, a meal pack is donated to someone in need. So our documentary journey took us to the Philippines, where we actually got to see the impact that this business here in Australia and internationally is having on these people in the Philippines, Vietnam, and also the Aboriginal community here in Australia. And so we went on that journey. It helped that Dennis spoke the native dialect of the places we went to, and we could have these really intimate conversations. And that's when you have that capacity to be able to talk to people in that way and hear about their stories, hear about their triumphs and their losses. That's what you use to build the story. And then we added in the interviews we did with the CEO Karim, with Sam himself, and it's a powerful piece. A lot of time and energy went into it because we had to discover who were the people behind the story, their charity partner, Rising Against Hunger, and so we had to, we spent the time.
What do you think is critical to good quality content? What's the X factor?
I think the X factor is it's not having too many messages within that piece. It's knowing why you're creating it and how it's going to have an impact on your business. So for us, we've been working across quite a lot of different areas in business, whether it's social media content or business to business tools, so that brands can actually get their product or service out to who they want to connect with. The X factor. It's this sense of truth that comes out of it, this sense of empowerment, I guess is how you put it. It's, when you watch a great piece of content, it calls you to action. You actually know what to do next, and you believe in the brand or what it is that's communicating. But at the same time, it could just be a piece of entertainment. But within that, brands use entertainment to build their awareness so that you know what they're about. And so it's when you've got all these different types of content that come together, that's when the story is told. And we like to connect with brands that speak to us, that mean something to us. So they're the brands that we want to hear more from.
How do you, first of all, what sort of process does the client go through from there? And then how do you articulate the amount of value that you actually are adding through these videos?
Well, it's interesting, Sam. There's two ways I can answer that question. And having done work in the financial services sector, it's it's been interesting in the sense of constantly experimenting and constantly trying to find, okay, well, this is what people have been doing. So if you look on YouTube and you're looking at different financial planning businesses, so if you're in a position you want to get some financial services, but you're so used to Facebook and YouTube and whatnot, and you want to learn a bit more about these organizations, you look for video content, because a lot of the websites are very similar. It's the similar sorts of words that are used and described, and maybe that's what you're looking for. It depends on your demographic and where you are in your life. But if you're the sort of person that's like, I actually want to know a bit more about the people, they are large financial commitments and investments in yourself, in your family, in your business, that you want to know that that's a good fit. And so you look across the last 3 to 5 years, various financial planning companies have put video content together. They generally have between 100 to 300 views on YouTube. They don't get the largest number, and it's understandable because it's fairly dry content, and it is very similar as you look across.
So I went out. Everyone loves the song. We all love the song. Shot the video, come back, hits radio as an independent single from an independent artist in Malaysia, and then just started blowing up. Like, one radio station makes it number one, another radio station makes it number one, another radio station makes it number one. It's now not just on local charts, it's on the international charts, like ahead of, like, on the radio, ahead of Lady Gaga, all of that stuff. It's very humbling, like, especially when in a country, like, my tweets are getting maxed out every night, replying to people that just love it. Just learnt the hard lesson that to move forward, like, it is all about who you collaborate with. It is all about who has a vested interest in what you're doing, because, I tried to do something in a territory with no one from there, just tried to bring my team, and especially all the people in Australia, like I said, they didn't want me there in the first place, so, for them to be invested heavily in something that was offshore, was hard in the first place. For me, it's like, if I want to move forward in anything, you need to be surrounding yourself with people that not only are invested and have vested interests, but you need to actually surround yourself with a great team. Unless you are willing to do the work, which is really, really, really make it an obsession. I mean, go and become a doctor. Go and become a finance guru. Go get your crypto game on. Do something like that, because that's probably going to give you more rewards than trying to be an artist, unless you're up for what that means. Sure. And that's the thing. Like, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and probably more tears than anything else to actually come out the other side and be like, okay, we've done this. There was no substitute for your time. All I needed to be was just be the best.
What was the reason why you decided to, I guess, not only focus on building your business, but building your own personal wealth as well?
Why?
Yeah,
I want to live a comfortable life. If I want to do something, I'll do it. If I want to buy something, I'll buy it. I want to be in a position where there's no thinking here and there. I just want to do it. Sure. I've set up my business where I only buy something when I need it, and I'll go away when I'm ready to go away. That's it.
Sure.
I'm in control. I'm happy where I am. You know what I mean? But I wanted that. It's important.
Sure.
So investing into properties and all that is one thing, but again, you don't want to live a life where you're just paying off a mortgage and being stressed out all the time. It's all about balance.
Yeah.
So, but you've got to make your money work for you in business. Buying a property, getting financial advice, and all the rest of it is to deduct all your tax bills and all the rest of it. It's very important. Not just to work your whole life, retire, and you've got nothing.
What do you think was the biggest achievement that you've had in business so far? Like, what was the point in your journey where you go, shit, this is stuff's getting serious, and I'm starting to kick some serious ass?
A couple of years ago, my business was set up where I was completely off the tools.
Okay.
And all I did was just drive around, check up on everyone.
Sure.
Not completely off, maybe 2 hours a day on the tools, and that was it. So I had a business that was creating income from working about maybe the maximum on 3 hours a day. That was it.
And that's the dream, isn't it?
That was the dream. But holding on to that dream is keeping the right workers.
Sure.
And keeping the right workers very hard.
If you had, say, a young bloke came up to you today and he goes, Alex, I've been working really hard and I want to start a business, right? What advice would you give to someone today who wants to start their own business?
The very first thing they've got to do is understand the financial side. They need to understand it. Whether they want to talk to someone who's got a business, sit down with them, even pay them money. My belief is, how do I say it? You have to learn how something works before you pay someone else to do it for you. Okay? I did my bookkeeping for 3 years. I understand everything. Bass lodgements, paying my tax, everything. Putting it into the system, zero, that kind of stuff. I would sit that person down. I would explain to him how everything worked. I would explain to him how tax works and all the rest of it. And he would have to understand that before I could confidently say to him, go start on your own. Sure. Because if you can't handle the stress of that, you can't do it. That's what I'm saying.
In a business, you need to identify your weaknesses and wherever possible outsource them. I think that it's important that we have an understanding of the things that we're outsourcing, because I think there's a lot of businesses owners out there that try and hire themselves out of problems, right?
Yeah, I think you still need to, how should I put this? You still need to know what's going on. You might not be the best at it in your team, but you have to understand why it's there and how it functions, no matter what part of the business it is.
And I think that there comes a point where you've got enough people in your team that it's not necessarily you, there's someone else there that knows a high level of what's going on, so then they can delegate the responsibility to somebody beneath them.
The first idea that comes to mind, right, is you get a lot of these businesses, they get above 500 grand in revenue, they never go above 1.5 mil, and they stay, it's funny because we call it a growth business, but they stay in this growth phase essentially forever. What do you reckon are the main factors behind that?
Two factors. They're in a highly profitable business, which allows them to maintain their position as a technician and still get to that level of revenue, but it's likely that they're still trading time for money, so they're working in their business. Or they've got stuck in that manager phase, they haven't been able to master getting more technicians on board, or enough technicians on board to make the next leap, to get another layer of management in place. And that's typical with a lot of businesses where they have high staff turnover. So you're basically always training new staff. You're always trying to get more out of your staff. You're always trying to keep them motivated.
If you keep pushing the pace, you'll figure it out. I think a lot of people that are in business, they don't achieve their goals that they really want because they don't actually push themselves hard enough to achieve it. Like, I don't know about you, but I come in every day, and every day is brand new, and there's new things to do, and there's new things to learn, and it's, the stuff I'm working on today I wasn't working on last week, and the stuff I was working on last week I wasn't working on the week before. And I think that if you don't keep pushing that pace and bringing, I guess, all the team members up to sort of take care of the things that you're not doing anymore, then you're eventually going to plateau.
Majority of the time it comes down to structure and people. People will always be the biggest variable in any business. And I think that the most common thing that I've always heard from most small business owners is that it's so hard to find good people.
Yes, that would be the number one problem that business owners have.
But I think there's a root cause of that problem.
What's that?
The root cause of that problem is that people invest in a business in one of two ways as an employee. They invest in a business because of how they're going to be remunerated, or they invest in a business for how they're going to make a difference.
The time spent or the busyness of what you do is not a very good indicator of how effective you are as a team member or as a business person. Everything you do should be tied to results. Nothing should be tied to time invested, because if you get paid $50 an hour and you work 8 hours a day, you are going to come to work and you're just going to do your 8 hours a day worth of work, because the end result's the same for you. You get paid your $400 no matter what. Whereas if your results or your remuneration is tied in to the amount of targets you hit, the amount of goals that we've set and they've been achieved, that is a much better way. You can do it in 6 hours, do it in 6 hours.
the reason why Australians have this affinity for property.
Yeah, they really do. They have an affiliation with property. It's interesting because a lot of the time we get clients that come to us that ask about the property piece first before they've got the rest of their house in order. So time and time again, people will, why, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's been born over time, probably off the back of the market performing so well for a number of decades now. And as a result, people have quite an appetite, particularly in the investment space. Bricks and mortar, you can touch it, you can see it, you can feel it. You're also very much in charge of the journey, as opposed to maybe in the equity space. And I still think equities play a really important role in someone's overall wealth creation. But in the equity space, you've got someone else that might be a CEO that's taking that company in a certain direction where you don't have a lot of control. In the property side of things, you do. So it is very much part of the Australian psyche. We often get clients that come to us and say, I want to put the property piece in place first, when we will then often push back and say, well, what are your goals and objectives? Let's talk about how your structuring is going to work, what type of entity you might be buying the asset in, how's that going to influence your wealth creation, maybe your family objectives, incomes down the track, etc., cash flow position. Get them talking to an advisor like yourself, Jackson, and then after they get their goals, objectives, a strategy in place, obviously having a chat to someone like Sam, talking about the loan side or the debt piece, and then we're in a position then to have a chat to them and work about what that next step in the property journey might look like.
What have you done in your business that's, I guess, allowed you to build that value proposition of how you select assets?
Yeah, well, I think one of the most challenging things for people, and us included these days, is with technology, there's so much information at everyone's fingertips. And I actually think that can be more of a hindrance than help, because it creates maybe analysis paralysis. When you've got so much information and you're reading often conflicting advice, then it actually it paralyses your progress, even more so when we didn't all have that information at our fingertips. So our probably unique value proposition at the asset level is definitely our valuation experience. So myself, James, my business partner, Dimitri, one of our other team, Will, another one on our team, all ex-valuers or have worked in a valuation firm. So that gives clients a lot of comfort that the way we assess an asset, there's a lot of other due diligence that goes into assessing what we determine to be an investment grade asset. But a key component to that is the valuation side. So one, the experience we've had in the valuation space is knowing what assets perform and not, because we're often doing refinances or revals years down the track after someone's bought a property, so you get a good feel as to what performs and what doesn't. And also giving clients that comfort that when we do a due diligence report on an asset and put our valuation analysis, is they know exactly there's a marker there or a point where they go, okay, well, the guys at PMC believe this property is worth $640,000 in the current market. For investors, we keep them pretty strictly to that figure, where we believe it represents good market value. For owner-occupiers, obviously there's a more emotion attached. They might say to us, look guys, aware that it's worth 640, but we love this property, we're willing to go to 650 or 660 or whatever the case might be.
You can't put a monetary value on your family time. It's ridiculous to even do it. So, because health professionals are a classic, as are most business owners. I could, if I see a morning full of patients, I can make $1,000, whatever I can make, or I can go to my daughter's school concert. But you can't do both. So what are you going to do? Well, it's going to cost me $1,000 to go to the school concert. So you're making the classic mistake. You're putting a monetary value on your family time. What are you going to remember? I'm not going to remember the patient list. I'll remember the concert. You're going to remember, and that follows on to one thing that I've always also believed in. There's no such thing, I believe, as quality time with your family. I think personal belief, I think the concept of quality time is ridiculous. The reason why it's ridiculous is because family time is quantity time. You went into business to have a choice. So they say, well, I can't leave work at 3 o'clock on a Friday. Well, why not? It's your business. You do whatever you want to do. I have to work Fridays. Well, why not take 3 days off every week? Why not? That's why you went into business. Who's running this business and who's it for? Is it for you or for everyone else? If you're a business owner, that's why you did it. So take the opportunity and be rewarded for being a business owner. Most business owners don't get rewarded enough. Reward yourself. Take a day off. Take your holidays. That's why you went into business in the first place. The accountant's numbers are very different than what I want to know. The accountant's numbers, what's the job of my accountant in a small business? To reduce my tax, organise my BAS and keep me out of jail. That's the job of my accountant. But that doesn't help me run the business. If I've got a great accountant or a great financial planner, I'm paying no tax, I'm showing the business is going down, I've got all sorts of things that make it look bad. But I can't use those numbers to run the business because there's all sorts of things happening that are adjusting my earnings before interest. I want to know what my profit is and what are the numbers. So I'd spend a lot of time with my clients. Don't wait for your accountant to tell you your numbers. Do it down and dirty 1 minute practice style. What did you bill for the month? Over the calendar month, what did you spend on all your things? What was your wages for the calendar month? What was your rent? And let's look at what's left over after you've done all those things, and then we can do some analysis. If your rent's 30% of gross, you're no chance. You got to know what your numbers are and what your ratios are so you can run a successful business. And if you're not getting, in most health businesses, we like a figure of 20 to 30%. If you're not getting 20 to 30% profit as a percentage of gross out of your business, I'll do something else. Find another business.
What do you think is one of the biggest wins that you're doing at the moment, or that you've implemented over the past few months in the business to make better use of your time?
Well, I think that it's something that I started a long time ago that's allowed me to do what I do every day, and I'm very efficient with my time. I get a lot done. And when I compare myself to my peers and other people in similar positions, I find myself getting a lot more done than they do. And it comes down to how I've structured my time and my day. Because you've set out that structure, you are probably only going to be out by 15 or 30 minutes a day. But you're always going to be heading in the right direction for the time that you've allocated to get stuff done. So having that structure means that I spend very little time scratching my head of what I should do next. Having that structure, okay, now this is the time I'm supposed to be doing this. And having that structure just makes life a lot easier because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, the only person that is holding you accountable is you. So if you don't have a structure to work towards, you're constantly thinking of what's the next thing that I'm supposed to be doing with my time. So this is the problem. I think that a lot of people are putting really good technicians into roles that aren't allowing them to exercise their expertise. And it's because you are expecting them to fit into you're trying to put a circle into a square hole, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things that you need to be able to create an environment where your expert technicians can flourish, can be fulfilled, and can be paid what they deserve to earn. Because we've seen it time and time again. You put these experts into a business where they're caught up in all of the crap and operational stuff that weighs them down, meaning that they're investing time in non-income producing activity, which means they can't reach their potential, which ultimately means that they're going to leave for another organisation that gives them that framework to operate and thrive. Skilled labour is only getting more expensive, and the cost to serve is increasing, and who ultimately pays the bill for that? The customer. And I think that particularly in professional services, it is increasing the barrier to entry for people who really need that expertise, because they just can't afford it, or they can't justify the investment because it's too much of a risk for the quantified value. People don't leave the business, they leave the leader.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I think that as leaders, it is our objective not only to lead and empower our clients with the best possible outcomes that we can possibly deliver from our business, but it's important that we do the same for our staff. And they don't put enough emphasis on these just small time savings that compound and add up throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, that really allows you to buy back your time.
Yeah, and I think you need to do it. Look at, there's a few things I'm thinking of now. Look at Bonjoro, that emailing system we got now. Give you guys a little bit of background. It's essentially you get your phone, it's an app on your phone, you do it like you're taking a selfie, and you say whatever you want to say to the client or to whoever it is, and then this app will send the video to the client via an email, and you've just condensed a 10-minute email into a 30-second video clip, and it gets a lot more attention as well. So there's just all these little things that you just don't think about, but in isolation, they're not going to make or break you, but in compounding, when you do 100 of these things better than you were doing them 6 months ago or 12 months ago, even a month ago, then that adds up to more efficiency in the business.
Correct. And look, it's always that thing that you've got to be hunting for opportunities to improve your business by working on it. Because if you're always working in it, you're never going to have the time. So, mate, what are you so excited about over the next 10 weeks of what we're working towards?
Mate, 10 weeks is a long time. Look, you've seen me over there in the corner. I've sort of been keeping to myself this past week or so. I'm excited about putting our acquisition strategy into place. Aureus, part of our business model is we're going to accumulate other small businesses in our sector, in the financial services sector. We're going to amalgamate them into Aureus and try to grow Aureus quickly that way. That actually takes a lot of work, to put the due diligence together, to get the funding from the investors, to get the funding from the bank, and then to put a strategy to complete the transaction and get the most out of the acquisition. And I'm excited because your book from your previous business is currently I think this very second coming any second now is coming into the business. And then we had a meeting this week with another small business owner that it's 99% likely we're going to acquire his business. And I'm excited to keep that momentum up. It's it's all new to me. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of hard work, but it's exciting.
What allowed you to stick the course in spite of, I guess, all of that negativity that you probably would have got over the years?
Well, I definitely did it the wrong way too, and so did my sister, because we had no clue what to really do. And they have systems and things like that, but you try to do things on your own. And I remember just copying, pasting a message and sending it to all these people. I don't even know how I still have friends left. And it's really funny that some of those people that I sent those messages to are in my business, which is even crazy in itself. So I remember the last time I had W-2 forms, I had 7 of them. So I tell you this because I just come from a working family. We started working at 10 years old. I was washing dishes at my sister's boyfriend's family's restaurant. My father never had less than 2 or 3 jobs. So I'm just a worker in itself. So I didn't really know any other way to be than to just work. So once I started something to stop after that was just not something that I was going to do. And I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't know what I was doing. I remember posting on Facebook, just really bad posts that I remember in the beginning would get 5 likes and 2 comments. It would be my sister and my best friend who are also doing the business. So the fact that my sister and my best friend were doing this with me was really huge, because it was almost like my sister wouldn't let me quit. So I kind of borrowed the belief in myself from her, because I was like, what am I really doing? I don't even know what I'm doing. This is not working. And I would get paid every now and again, but I think I didn't quit because I learned about personal development. I never knew. At 33, nobody told me I could do, be, or have anything that I wanted. I didn't know about Les Brown. I was meeting all these people. I'm like, this is really cool stuff, I thought I was just going to be a throw out the ball phys ed teacher. And then, I was like, oh, I'll do that for 5 to 10 years and then figure something else out. So I think, honestly, between the support that I had from my sister and my team, and then the personal development side of it, I didn't want to stop. And plus I was creating an income other ways, so it wasn't I didn't have money to pay my bills and things like that.